Well, today marks 45 years since Mount St. Helens erupted. That eruption is why May is recognized as Volcano Awareness Month in Washington. Now, since then, our state has made huge strides in tracking volcanic activity. Abby Coney has more on the latest efforts. Hey, Abby.
Yeah, thanks so much, Taylor. Joining us this morning, Dr. Harold Tobin, Director of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network. Harold, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, we know that we have several volcanoes in the Pacific Northwest and across the Cascades, and there were indications of a potential eruption before that happened for Mount St. Helens. How much of a heads up can we get ahead of an eruption like that?
Well, what we know is back in 1980, earthquakes started in March, and the eruption was May 18th, 45 years ago today. And so we had a whole cascade of kind of events that we could detect with our seismometers during that time. That was a real, watershed event in terms of monitoring the Cascade volcanoes and seeing that perhaps some precursors would happen. I can tell you that if the volcano started to become active, we would certainly see some signs of unrest. Now, I can't tell you if it would be 2 months like it was in 1980, 2 weeks, longer, or even just hours to days, but we would certainly see some advanced activity. I'd be pretty sure.
And you know what, you along with USGS putting these volcano tracking equipment on these active volcanoes in our state, where do we stand? Are we good enough with that monitoring? Do we need more?
Well, compared to 1980, it's a completely different world, right? We established an entire network of seismic monitoring, but also other forms of monitoring, even from satellite images from space, measuring gases that might be coming out of the volcanoes. And so all of them are monitored now with anywhere from 1 or 2 to as dozen or more, seismic monitoring stations today. We're much better off than we were back then. Are we completely adequate? No. I'd like to see, Mount Baker, Mount Adams even, Mount Hood, Mount Rainier, all of them monitored at an even higher level than we are today, so we can really understand what's happening kind of down in the guts of the volcano, whether magma is moving or faults are moving in the volcano itself.
Isn't it incredible that you can get indications of something like that and how crucial that equipment is? Thanks for kind of describing that. For people who are new to the area, I kind of want to talk about the different volcanoes we have. So, Mount Rainier, Mount Baker, which one is most likely to erupt next, do you think?
Well, certainly the one most likely to erupt again is actually Mount St. Helens itself. It's the most seismically active, and since 1980, we've seen a couple of periods where it even had small-scale eruptive activity back in 2004 to 2007 or so. Right now, Mount St. Helens is actually producing more earthquakes than it has been over the past decade or two. Now, that doesn't mean it's about to erupt. I don't want anybody to, to get concerned, but it's entering the phase where it's a little bit more active seismically as well. Mount Rainier is also a dangerous volcano because of the risk of big mudslides coming off the side of the volcano. It last erupted for real about 1,000 years ago and had rumblings only in the past couple of 100 years. So on a geological time scale, that's nothing.
And I know that there's so many communities in the path of what would be a lahar flow in that event. Orting and Puyallup, they do drills. They're really prepared, those communities at risk. Now, we have to talk about what's happening more broadly, politically. Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, USGS, affected by DOGE, staffing and funding cuts?
Yeah, it really is beginning to be affected. So the PNSN, the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, is based at UW, but we're very close partners with the U.S. Geological Survey and the federal government. They actually provide about 80% of the funding, so we can operate our network, and we operate it together with them. Already what's happened is in the USGS side, they've had some staffing losses, and they've had some restrictions on what they can actually do to spend their money to do some of the station monitoring, station maintenance and upkeep too. We have seismic stations, even in the crater of Mount St. Helens, all kinds of difficult to get to places. So as of now, our funding is still in place at the seismic network, but we're certainly concerned that funding keeps coming because otherwise we won't be able to monitor these volcanoes.
What would happen if we weren't able to monitor these volcanoes?
Well, in the immediate term, we'd be short-staffed and we wouldn't be able to keep the stations maintained and up. And of course, things wouldn't change on day one. That's sort of, deferred maintenance and a gradual change. But over time, we would really lose our ability to know what's going on. And that really affects that opportunity to detect something before, the volcano reaches a crisis and gets close to an eruption. So we don't want people to lose any of that potential advance warning time.
We have shake alerts. So this is a thing where people can get updates on their phone of earthquake activity. Where do we stand with that?
Yeah, Shake Alert is the earthquake early warning system that once an earthquake is beginning, we can give you, up to a minute of advance warning. And that's working very well. Actually, the Shake Alert system's been in place in Washington since May 2021. We just had the 4-year anniversary. We had an alerting event with this earthquake underneath Orcas Island a couple of months ago, some people will remember. And the Shake Alert system worked really well. It sent out messages. So we're confident that that works. Earthquakes are different from volcanoes. They don't really tell us when they're about to happen. We know generally where earthquakes can happen, but in terms of right beforehand, we don't see that kind of advance warning that we think we do get with the volcanic eruptions. So Shake Alert's critical.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking about volcanoes, earthquakes. I know there's so much more we could cover. Dr. Harold Tobin, Director of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, we really appreciate you being with us this morning.
Thanks so much.
I'll send it back to you, Taylor.